This is my favorite double page spread in Land of the Lustrous out of all the 29 spreads within the series. Houseki no Kuni is a manga defined by its art style and utilizes negative space in such a high degree, especially with spreads that are known in manga to be heavy-hitting page-turners. It's honestly surprising then that Haruko Ichikawa seems to hold back on using this method, as it might diminish its overall value. There are multiple volumes where we don't even get one of these. It's pretty commonplace to have at least one double-page spread in the pilot chapter of a series because the mangaka is trying to draw the reader into their world and establish their foot in the door. However, Ichikawa opts not to and actually teases until the last chapter of the first volume, chapter 6, to bring out this technique, and it's inherently tied to Cinnabar. With Cinnabar's introduction, the poor gem is pretty confined within the small panels they are drawn in. Even though the mercury emitted from their body supersedes the panel boundaries sometimes, Foss's intrusion into Cinnabar's world is equally highlighted. Chapter 6 gives Cinnabar some agency through the actual layouts, as the first proper spread in the series shows the extent of damage that the mercury could do, friend or foe, as the gem almost attacks their own kind instead of the Lunarians. Ichikawa chooses not to use the full space of the double pages and limits the spread to the top half because Cinnabar is half excited for action that usually doesn't happen at nighttime. Not only does this give them purpose for the role that they regulated onto themselves, but also Cinnabar is afraid of causing harm, which is why the bottom half of the spread shows a restraint in the attack, almost like an instinctual repression of the mercury, like the panels that constricted the gem previously. Chapter 67's spread is the only other one in the manga that has a very similar layout to this one here, where the top half has one image and the bottom places panels on either end. This layout, established in chapter 6, is juxtaposed perfectly with the other spread within the same chapter, because even if it's not considered traditional, where it is one single image, paneling is so evocative. A total of 7 segmentations, akin to the 6 times the Earth was struck, plus one more for the world that we are currently in. The panels themselves expand in size as Cinnabar opens space for Foss to come back to form using mercury. Now, obviously, this is like a metaphor. It's not actually mercury that gives shape to Foss. Something so toxic like mercury is what gives a hollow Foss identity once again, as everyone except maybe Diamond had abandoned Foss at that point, as the Gem Society was okay with mistaking Foss for a sea slug. Even though Cinnabar is their savior, they aren't present physically for Foss's revival, which is showcased as their little silhouette is not even in this spread itself, as it was Rutile that actually put Foss back together piece by piece. The anime by Studio Orange goes about this scene in a completely different method because it is near impossible to capture the page turn of a spread into the new medium of animation. Although it is of course great as an adaptation, with the liquid revival, it looks less like mercury getting poured into a reverse mold and more like a watery Foss that comes into focus with way more emphasis on the dynamic camera movement. For the anime, I feel like the nuance of this moment is lost a little bit. I mean, I really love this spread so damn much. Every time a new chapter came out post hiatus, I stumbled onto additional meaning, albeit wrong. When chapter 97 first came out, I speculated incorrectly that the person who was pouring the mercury was actually Dr. Ayomu, because the hatch looked similar to the design on the wall behind young Kongo, and the bodily fluid could have been a reference in this case as, blood, mercury. There's definitely a link to that. And the fact that the doctor had dreamed of becoming a mineral. This spread from chapter 6 is what I would consider to be the spiritual forebearer for the amazing multiple back-to-back single-page panels we got in the penultimate chapter 107. As of this recording, there is no physical release for volume 13, as the Japanese edition will release next month with no set date for the English. So there is no way of knowing if these pages actually line up the way that they did in the magazine release, so we'll have to wait and see. Happy 12 years of Houseki no Kuni. It's not like Ichikawa has done anything special for the past 6 years. though. I'll see you in 2025. Peace.